Hello and welcome to The Real Bottom Line, the podcasts where we interview entrepreneurs about entrepreneurial things to help you grow your business. Today's a bit of a special edition because I have three guests today. And at the end, we're going to have a special offer for you tied to what we're talking about today. So today, we are going to talk about putting on live events, how they can help your business, and how should they properly be structured now that we're out of the pandemic. So, my guests today, Menna Riley, Tyler Hayden, and Ravi Tangri. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
Thanks a lot,
great
Wendy.
to be here.
This
Hi.
is so exciting. Okay, question. I'm going to go around and get you guys to do a very quick introduction about who you are and what your business is. Menna.
Hi, I am Menna Riley. I run Leading Ladies Networking, which is an in-person professional networking event series for women in Nova Scotia. And I also have online networking training courses for people outside of Nova Scotia.
Cool.
Excellent, excellent. Ravi.
I'm Ravi Tangri, and I do soul engineering, which is about how do you bring more heart and soul into your work, into your leadership, into all of your life.
Sweet. And Tyler.
I love it. My name is Tyler Hayden. I am a keynote speaker, is what I do for a living. And I write books and I help organizations to get their teams engaged and their workforces aligned and productive. Written 28 books and traveled around the world talking. So love it. Love it.
That is awesome.
Love it.
So, especially Tyler and Ravi, you guys were paid to speak at events pre-COVID,
Yeah.
right? So what happened to your guys' business during COVID? Did you go online and then now we're transitioning back out? Like, what's happening to you guys?
Yeah. Go for it, Ravi. You can start. You did
I
some really
remember
cool
the
things.
day, March 8th, every gig in the world disappeared. And all of our professional association, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, international members, everyone was freaking out because everything disappeared off our calendar. So everyone learned very quickly how to go online. Now, yes, everyone is transitioning back in person, but I find there's still, the online has not gone away. And for myself, I'm always building a bit of hybrid. Or like if it is an in-person gig, I tie in some follow-up virtual afterwards. And I do a lot of consulting work as well. So after I've done the facilitation strategic planning on site, there's more virtual follow-up. So it's much more hybrid for me, at least.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tyler, how about you?
I just hit print on like a 300-page book on in-person team building about 2 weeks before everything shut down. So it was great timing. It gave me the opportunity to write the follow-up, which is virtually engaged about virtual team building. But yeah, you know what? It was there was already some movement towards virtual things from an environmental perspective. So some organizations were looking for speakers to be able to log in. I was actually in the process of building a studio inside my house, so I had a lot of the things to go online as soon as everybody else went online. Even had bought some Zoom stock prior to everything shutting down, which was good timing.
Great choice.
Great timing. And yeah, so a lot of that stuff I was already kind of leaning into. Event planners were asking for us to make that an option to reduce our carbon footprint. We can zoom in and we can do our events. But, I think we've learned a bunch of things since then. And I think that there's actually an interest in being in person and being together. So I think we realized what we missed as a result of COVID and of that shutdown. So yeah, that's what I think the big learning of the shutdown was.
Interesting. And how about for you, Menna? Because obviously your business, the live events you were doing in person were affected as well.
Just a little bit. I was like, okay, there wasn't any time to even cry over spilt milk. Like everyone saying, I actually just said, I, carefully crafted how the event format and what people need to get out of it prior to COVID. And when COVID hit, I just knew this event isn't going to do what it needs to do. It's not going to be what everyone wants it to be with it going online, or everyone socially distanced outside or anything like that. I just had to wait.
Yeah.
So I decided to wait. While I was waiting, obviously, we're so, fortunate that we came out of the pandemic. I also invested in some business coaching to take my idea that I've had for, over a decade, which is doing an online networking training course and bringing that to fruition. So it was kind of, a happy circumstance and a happy outcome, really. In that I offer both. So if it's convenient for people to come to live events in Nova Scotia now, awesome. And if you want to learn how to, build your network strategically online, you can also do that. So that's where
That's
it was.
awesome.
Yeah.
I went to an event kind of in between the two shutdowns.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to this event and one of the sponsors got up and they basically gave me the same value proposition as they had pre-pandemic. And I'm like, if this was virtual, my screen would be off and my mute would be on and I'd be going to do something else because it just didn't resonate anymore. Like
Right.
they didn't shift at all. What do you think people need to do to shift and take advantage? Has things changed in the live event world that business owners need to be thinking about from a sponsorship and an execution perspective?
Well, I think we always have to be doing that. I mean, if we're not willing to change it, we're not ready to be able to look at what the market is asking for, then, our business becomes irrelevant. We become irrelevant. So the pandemic was just a global kind of timestamp for that. That says, hey, for me, I started taking all of my data, 28 years as a speaker and a team builder. I started taking my hard drive and putting it up into an LMS, into a school, the team building school. So I think we start to look at what we have. How do we make it better? How do we make it so that people will be able to engage with it better as new technology comes online? COVID was amazing for that. There were so many things that I was excited to do as a speaker, but the technology wasn't accessible. But as a result of the influx of money from VCs, all these super cool new software products came online that we were able to start to chop up videos better, to add DEI stuff to our video. Like it just became amazing, and we were able to be able to provide to that change. So I think that was some of the good outcomes of that.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I think you're right on that side. In terms of execution of live events, so Ravi, you referenced this a little, that some of people are like, how do I make this hybrid? How do I better affect things? Have you seen any other changes in how people are structuring live events to capture attention in a world where I think online and virtual actually decreased our attention span, if that was possible?
Well, one of the things that I found I was able to do, because I'm a facilitator as well, is when a lot of times when I'm in conferences, I'm not just speaking, I do things such as open space, world cafes, which I could do online as well, which you have to be engaged. You're either physically at a small table with people or virtually so you can't hide and have the screen off. And what I've found is there's a lot of conferences and organizations asking for more engagement, asking to tap into the expertise that is in the audience, not just the sage on the stage, and to move things to action. So I found there's been a real hunger for exactly that, keeping people engaged. And I think one of the things that happened during the pandemic, sort of the rule of thumb, Tyler, tell me if I'm wrong, came that we had to throw out half our content to increase engagement.
Yeah.
Pretty much on that, so to keep people engaged. And I think that tightness is important, and the engagement. So there's a lot of techniques. I mean, I used these before the pandemic too, but I upped my use of, for example, Slido to engage people online. You can do that hybrid. I still do that with in-person audiences. It keeps everybody in, even if you've got 1,000 people in the room, everyone's engaged, can stay engaged and have input. without even breaking off. But it's about changing the flow to me so that you are pulling them in. Now, besides that, speaking, it's still the same thing. You got to make it relevant so they want to pay attention.
Yeah.
And it's funny, before the pandemic, or as the pandemic was occurring, my meeting planners that I was talking to were like, yeah, Tyler, we're going to use you when the pandemic's over, because we want the engagement in the room. My high energy kind of bringing people together, getting to talk, connect, all that kind of stuff. It was funny because the as the pandemic was happening, we were really viewing this technology as a very like 2D. It's hard to connect, it's hard to engage, it's hard to do those things, and we were thinking that was only going to happen in the conference room and in the meeting room. But I think what we've been able to prove is that it can happen a little bit differently, but it does happen. There's lots of great ways to engage people virtually as there is in person. Now they're different, and if I had my choice, I'll take in person any day of the week. I think that you get kind of two different types of outcomes. I think that this format is really good for delivering content, for coming together and working through maybe a single or maybe two problems in a shorter period of time. But if you want that creativity, if you want that growth of connection and bonding, then I think coming in person is really important. A lot of the organizations I work with internationally are still, and they're fully remote organizations, they're still meeting 3 and 4 times a year somewhere in the world in person, because there are certain learning outcomes and business outcomes that are better served face to face.
The other thing I'd add to that is, Wendy, you know me, I'm all about breaking limits, right? Yeah. Innovation. But when we went into the pandemic, I used to say, oh no, the stuff that I do, the strategic planning, the engagement, you can only do in person. You can't do online. Well, guess what? Pandemic hits, and all of a sudden, I realized the blocks I was putting in my way with my own beliefs, and the amount of reinvention, not just the technology. It took time for the technology that Tyler mentioned, but I invented processes, created and tapped into technology, and found suddenly I could do 95% of what I did in person with the same engagement online. Mm-hmm. And what I've been working to do is say, okay, let's keep that innovation. Let's just not go back to what we did before. Sure. How do we reinvent what we're doing in person now to up that game? Right. And I think that's always what you need to be focused on.
Yeah, I think that, and many times we look at the pandemic and think of all the negatives, but there were certainly some great deal of positives in terms of, to Tyler's point about investment in technology. In my industry, I know that some certain things happened that were so much better for my clients because the companies had to actually serve the client, not just themselves, if 100%. They wanted business.
Yeah, look at DocuSign. Like, how is DocuSign? Like, that's amazing. Like, it's a game changer. Like,
I'm going to tell you, we used DocuSign a lot prior to the pandemic, and 50% of the time our documents were rejected, and we had to go get the wet signature.
Wow.
And during the pandemic, we're sliding papers under doors for people to sign because there was no other way to do it.
Wow.
So I was happy about that part. Now, Menna, so you've started networking again. Your events are always well attended. I feel like for myself, I lost my extrovert networking muscle. How are people reacting to being networking again? Is everyone just coming because they have to, or are they enjoying it? Like, give me some sugar around this.
Okay, so before the pandemic, I found, kind of equal parts extrovert, introvert, ambiverts. It's still hard to get people in a room, regardless of their experience, and especially with the innovations in technology prior to COVID. I found I was always pitching like, all right, I got to get you guys out from behind the screen. And then COVID hits and everyone's mandatorily behind the screen. And not only that, but it's almost like a reset button was hit when it
Mhm.
comes to in-person communication and connection. So I almost had to go back to the beginning with a lot of people. Like, honestly, Wendy, even yourself, I remember you and I were at our first networking event post-COVID, and you were like, I forget everybody's name. How do I do this? And I was like, I know, me too. Like, you just don't, if you don't flex that muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I really preach in my courses and in my events is consistency, consistency, consistency. You have to keep doing this and you're going to get better. But the second you stop doing it, you're going to get worse.
Atrophy, muscle atrophy.
Yes.
Um, let's shift and take this learnings because the four of us are involved in a conference for entrepreneurs. Now, I do think that there was a loss of some independent conferences because they kind of all got shuttered for a while, and now there's kind of new ones popping up like Turning Tides. So, where did the motivation for this particular conference come from, Tyler?
So you know what, we've got an amazing sets of businesses inside Nova Scotia, and I think we've been missing a place to come and connect those small businesses. And when we got talking, Ravi, and I started talking about what can we do in a virtual way to continue the learning post conference, but how can we use the conference as a jump off point to be able to connect people together? There are so many businesses in Nova Scotia that have the opportunity to support each other, to learn from each other, to grow together. That it's just a matter of creating those synergies, and we want to help to create that for Nova Scotia long term. So this is year one of Turning Tides. So that's what we're all about.
That's awesome. Now, Ravi, you're calling it the unconference. What does that mean? And why? And why should I, as a business owner, want to go to an unconference?
Well, that's really the final part of it. Is the unconference is what I mentioned earlier, is about how do you tap the wisdom of the people in the room.
Right.
Mm,
So instead of everyone sitting and focused on the stage with experts, which we are going to have, there's two parts that are sort of unconferencey. One is Menna is coordinating a Meet the Experts, where we are going to have a room full of experts. So I mean, there's great expertise and ideas coming from the stage,
mhm.
but everyone's got unique needs. So Menna is bringing people with all sorts of amazing specialties. So you can pick three people that you want to connect with in that time based on your needs, so that it's custom crafted. The other part is the unconference that I'll be facilitating is, everyone comes out of a conference with great ideas, all these notes, and then you get back to 200 emails you've missed, and it, as another speaker says, it goes from self-development to shelf development, and it goes away. And
Mm,
so what we're actually going to do is get people to identify what is the one big idea that you think could really take your business to the next step. Like, if you walk away with a list of 10 things, you'll get none done. What's the one thing that you can action tomorrow that will, and people that are focused on that can work together to build action plans, build accountability groups, help each other figure it out,
mm.
and actually move to action. And the thing is, this is tied back to what Tyler said. This isn't just about a conference. This is about how do we connect? How do we move forward? Because there's so many different challenges today post pandemic, and nobody alive has the expertise who has experience coming through a global pandemic, working from home, hybrid workplaces, labor shortages, supply chain. Nobody alive has
Really?
managed that.
There's
We're
no one.
all in a new swimming pool.
And
And so we need to support each other finding the way through.
And what's
It-
really cool too is we've had great support
mm,
like groups like CBDC, like Invest Nova
Mhm.
Scotia, like Futurepreneur, who've come on board to say, you know what, let's get all the entrepreneurs in a room, let's get
Yep.
into that big idea, and now we have the people who can start to connect them to resources, to support, to mentoring, to coaching, all of those things too. So we've got a great room full of supporters, in addition to Mena's experts, the people on the main stage, and the experts who
Yeah.
you're going to be having coffee with. Just by virtue of sitting at a table.
I love all of that. I mean, in my group program that I run for entrepreneurs, one of the common thing is to not feel alone. Because as as a leader in a business, who are you talking to, and who has that same shared experience, and also some different shared experience that if they can talk to you about it might save you a lot of time in terms of mistakes or execution, etc. So Menna, you're putting together this expert panel, like these experts. What I love about that is, to you guys' point, it's like a cafeteria style. What do you need now so that you can choose that? And I love it. Choose your own adventure to some degree.
Yeah.
What kind of experts do you have, and how did you choose them?
So I actually looked around the province, being in business for over 25 years in Nova Scotia. I think we've all built up quite robust networks. So I reached out to different experts that I thought were at the perfect level to be able to walk in the room, to sit at a table with other entrepreneurs and give them a little bit of their wisdom. And I also had the fun task of making sure there was no overlap. So all of the experts are going to have their unique spin on how they can help you. And part of the registration process is that when you register, you'll see all of their pictures up on the wall, along with what the title of their expertise topic is, as well as what's the number one takeaway you're going to get if you go to their session. So we're really making sure that it's outcome based. So they're going to share a story, you're going to get Q&A time, and then you're going to hop over to the next expert. And as Ravi mentioned, there's 3 different sessions in concurrence that you can attend. So you really get a chance to mix and match, like you said, Wendy, choose your own adventure. And I think in that way, it really makes sense for all of the entrepreneurs and small businesses, since this is kicking off Small Business Week, that are in attendance, that really can take those takeaways that apply to their business and their lives.
You know what I love about that too is that it's not someone just from stage. I mean, there's some people from stage, which is great, but it's at a table. And when you're at a table, how you interact is probably going to be slightly different, and you get to ask your own question. And if you are shy at all, and you might not have put up your hand in a big room of people, but you're at a table of less people, you're more likely to get that personalized feedback that you need, right?
100%.
Yeah.
It brings in the conference that we might be used to pre-pandemic, but it also kind of blends in a little bit of masterminding, where you get to actually take your problem that you're dealing with, because we all have them, and we've all probably dealt with somebody else's problem, so we get to help each other and share that collected wisdom that is within our room, and eventually within our community of turning tides. So that's where we're heading.
And also, the key here, you were asking originally, sort of, how do you make events relevant? It is that knowing your audience, knowing what their hot buttons are, knowing what's keeping them up at night. These are issues that are huge for entrepreneurs, and it's also staying tuned into them. For example, Wendy, the reason that you are involved is our presenting sponsor, CBDC, identified one of the biggest challenges for small business owners today is financial management post-pandemic. We need that information and expertise in that. So that's why we reached out to you to come and play. So it's making sure we know both what they want and what they need.
Well, and also not presuming that everyone's the same by having the panel experts. We're all at different points on our journey, right?
Yeah. Well, and Wendy, I wanted you to, because you have really cool glasses, and I have an affinity to really cool glasses. So the financial expertise, I think that's amazing, but it's the glasses really for me. Who's getting
See, I knew that. I was very insistent on getting good glasses, so thank you.
And we just wanted you to come and play regardless.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, if you were to go, I'm going to go around now and just say, tell me your top value proposition about why an entrepreneur would want to be in the room. And I'm going to start with you, Menna.
Great. So
on the spot. Spotlight on you.
Hold on, value proposition. No. Honestly, I think we have really touched on this. So the fact that you can walk in the room, you can come as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, any age or business stage is welcome in this environment. And you can really shape that conference to be everything that you need it to be. And the person next to you will walk away with something completely different because that's what they need it to be. So it's kind of like that customizable option that's accessible for people in Nova Scotia, because normally these conferences are all over the country, all over, North America, and we don't really get the opportunity to access this level of expertise, but also have that customizable experience like they will at Turning Tides.
Yeah. And Ravi, the price point is super accessible, right? Like maybe when you took your value proposition, talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, the customizability that Menna talked about, absolutely. The network, not only in person, but it includes a year's membership to, here's the tying in the virtual, year's membership to an online community of people who are involved there. Action plan, walking out, and connections with people that are working on similar things. I mean, all of that at this one price point. Right now, we're in the early bird pricing, and then people listening to this podcast can get an extra $50 off that, which is, it's
very accessible. Yeah.
Very, very accessible.
Yeah. And for Tyler, what's the value prop for you? And maybe tie this into how it was structured to kind of take advantage of the new way of doing things.
So I think we have access to world-class speakers, world-class content. We're using world-class innovative tools to be able to get people to connect, communicate, and grow their business right here in Nova Scotia, and then providing long-term connection and support year over year to help to work with one another to make sure that we all shine our brightest light.
Ooh.
How's that for a soundbite?
That was beautiful.
I got to think for the last three of you, though, so that was really helpful. What about you, Wendy? What do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, turning the tables. Okay. Bigger spotlight then. So for me, I love the accessibility. I love the cafeteria style. I love the fact that it's building a community of other business owners so that we know where to go to ask questions, because we may meet someone who's been through exactly what we're facing right now. And so they have that lived experience that, most of the time we're so happy to share. But if people know to ask us, we're so much happier to do so. So I think those are all really good. And to Menna's point to some degree is, let's take that chance and get out from behind the computer, because it is being structured so that whether you're an extrovert, ambivert, or introvert, you can shine here.
100%.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing? Sorry.
Please do.
So for anyone listening that will be taking advantage and attending Turning Tides year number 1, I just want to really make sure that everyone knows. So the experts are actually tables at this year in 2024, tables of 8. So you really do get almost that one-on-one accessibility. And there are a couple different points throughout the day, throughout the conference, for networking. Yeah. So you're actually going to be able to follow up and, ask that one last question or ask for a follow-up, so it's going to be a really huge opportunity to network as well as connect with these experts and everyone else at the conference.
Can I build on that one?
Yes, please.
Wendy, is that not only everyone there, all the experts, but all of us, plus all the sponsors, CBDC, Futurepreneur, Invest Nova, all of our sponsors are going to be there and accessible all day. So if you've got questions about programs, all these things that can support your business, this is the place. Everybody is there.